Welcome to Monday Morning Critic Podcast. Here is Derek Thomas.
And I got one life. I wanted to mean something.
There you go on a dark end of the street.
You treating these people?
Oh, they're treating themselves.
Are you scared to tell somebody how you feel about
What is going on?
People are dying.
If you're gonna cry, well, come on, cry with me. You ain't alone. Just let me be your ticket home.
Dallas Buyers Club, rated R.
My next guest has over 150 acting credits. His classic works include Dallas Buyers Club, American Horror Story, most recently as Chad in The Righteous Gemstones. He is a Tracksuit Charlie in Spenser Confidential, Senator McClellan in The Banker. He is a very iconic actor, one that I appreciate and enjoy watching on the screen. His name is James DuMont. James, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me.
So I gotta say, man, I want to talk about your pinned tweet before I get into anything. You
go for it.
You called Jared Leto's Academy Award nomination 2 years before it happened. So before you answer that, do you have the 2021 Super Bowl winner available?
Yeah, New Orleans Saints.
I'll tell you right now, I'm putting money on that. When the casinos open again, I am putting money on it.
It's wishful thinking, but now that the Braves down in Tampa Bay, let's see, can one man build an empire? Because I can tell you, Drew Brees is, and we just got an incredible receiver on the Saints, so I'm feeling pretty good. You know what I mean?
Well,
I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, the Saints have the best wide receiver in football, and they have a great offense. I hope their coach is feeling better. I know he was struck with the virus.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that team, and I love that fan base. And I know you're a New Orleans guy. Do you still live there, or do you kind of go back and forth between the West Coast and New Orleans?
I go New York as well. And initially I used to be called the Bayou Coastal. I'm Bayou Coastal.
Oh, okay, all right.
But now I'm tri-coastal, so I'm New York, LA, and New Orleans because I'm kind of in the middle. LA is 3 hours away on a plane. New York is 3 hours away, so I'm like right in the middle there. And Atlanta, which has got tons of work, is only an hour away on a plane. So I'm kind of in the right spot. The cost of living is lower in half than New York or LA. The quality of life up until the coronavirus. It was pretty amazing, and it still is amazing. It's it's warmer here than in Los Angeles, but unfortunately, because of this, the incubation period for this virus was during Mardi Gras, and I knew it. And lucky for me, my wife doesn't like large crowds, so she was away from everybody at a distance. We only saw one parade. I know people that were going to parades every weekend. So, but yeah, New Orleans is my home, man.
Yeah.
There's when I came down here to start doing, I did Treme. I did 2.5 seasons of Treme. We did 3.5 seasons of Treme. Then we did, and then I did 2 seasons of American Horror Story, and then like 40 movies in between. And then when it came to Deepwater Horizon, which is my first film with Peter Berg and Mark Wahlberg, now I'm on to my third. I decided to stay here. My wife's from Baton Rouge. My kids were starting high school and middle school, and they got into the best schools in the city. And so we sold our house in L.A. and we moved down south. And all of us constantly keep looking at each other, and it's a little bit difficult transition at first, but our lives are just so much better because of it.
That's
it's a hard move because I think there's a misnomer these days that if you're not in New York and you're not in LA, you're not in the business. The reality is now nobody's doing live meetings or auditions right now. Everything's been self-taped. So I've been self-taping for 14 years.
Right.
So half my jobs are either offers or self-tape. So, I've been on this curve before there was a curve. So, in that regard, I've been able to kind of put, I've just figured it out just recently because I just started coaching and teaching actors on how to do on-camera work and how to do self-tapes and stuff. And I do this on-camera workout, and I add it all up. I mean, I've booked like $1 million worth of work from never having to come into the room.
Wow.
And it's just from self-tapes, not from offers, from self-tapes. So it's still an audition. It's a virtual audition in the sense that I have to craft out, an entire performance much like I would do a live audition, but I'm just doing it in my, home studio here in New Orleans, and I send it off. And I send it off to London, to Vancouver, to New York, to LA, to Atlanta. Currently, even though it's supposed to be dead, I had an audition every single day last week. I hate to, it's not to brag, it's just, I put in 30 years, but to say that people are freaking out about the business, and, the reality I'm realizing is that, everybody's going to be all binged, washed out in the next 2 months.
Right.
So they're going to need more content. So I believe our business is in a pretty good position, because people are really, really reliant upon this content now.
No,
now more so than ever, and here we are. This is one of the things America makes that doesn't pollute the environment, other than people's minds.
Yeah. You've earned this. No, and you're one of those actors I love interviewing because you've busted your ass. You've put in your time. You're a pleasure to watch on screen. You get job after job after job, and it's a variety of roles. It's not like one typecast role. I mean, you look at what you have out. You look at what you have out now. You couldn't find two drastically different roles in Spenser Confidential and The Banker. I mean, come on. So. No, I feel
I'm very fortunate in that regard because I know there are friends of mine that make much, much more money than I do. I'm just a working dude. But I know people who've made, a killing and a career of doing one thing that people like and doing it well.
Right.
And they're oddly, envious of me at times because they're like, dude, every time I turn around, you're in something and you're in something totally different than the other thing. And I go, yeah, but this is what an actor's about. I still have a hard time. And I was talking to Bill Forsythe, who's a wonderful working actor like myself with a much, much bigger body of work. And I, made the mistake of like, dude, you're one of my favorite character actors. He's like, no. Don't use the C word. Don't call me a character actor. I'm an actor, bro. And I was like, me too. I have the same feeling. He goes, well, why'd you say that? I said, yeah, because everybody puts that. If you're not the leading man, you're the character guy. And I'm like, wait a minute, because you play all these characters. But the reality is, Sly Stallone is a character actor because he does one character.
That's right. Yeah.
Vin Diesel is a character actor because he does one character.
Ryan, I love Ryan Reynolds, but you could probably throw him in there too. I mean, I love him, but
right. So they're great. But that's what they do. It's one, and we love it, and they do it fantastically. But the reality is that an old school actor of a theater company, like a repertory company, if you're a rep actor, in a season, you would do Shakespeare, and you do Moliere, and then you do a Tennessee Williams, and then you do a O'Neill. You know what I mean? So in the course of a season of a repertory company, you'd be playing these different roles. You're not a character actor. You're an actor.
Right.
An actor's job is to step into the shoes of other human beings. And so for me, I've just been really, really lucky. And I say lucky in the sense that, I don't believe in luck. It's just preparation and opportunity.
Absolutely.
I've really kind of positioned myself to not be pegged that, that James does this. Now, there is a consistent characters that I've been seeing lately of the what I like to call the bureaucratic. We can swear on here, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm in the bureaucratic asshole phase of my career. So I play the bureaucratic asshole in The Banker, and then if you look at it from another perspective, I play the mobster asshole in Spenser Confidential for all you cat lovers. So my point is that and this is Cranston and I were having this conversation about what is it about us nice guys and how well we do at these playing the bad dudes. And Brian says, well, it's because we would never say or do any of these things in our lives like we only can do it through character. And I'm like, absolutely.
Right.
I would never say or do any of the things that I've had the opportunity to do creatively. Like Dallas Buyers, for example, I would never abandon my son because of his transgender or homosexuality. You wouldn't abandon your own. But when I played that role and the way people responded to me on the red carpet, for example, it's as if I was their mother or father that abandoned them for being gay.
Wow.
So you gotta know you're doing a great job when people think it's you. But then you got to work your ass off to go, hey, guess what? It's not me. I was like, here I am in this big breakout movie, my 50th film. We didn't know it was going to become. I kind of knew it was going to become a big thing in terms of an Oscar. I knew that Jared and Matthew in the same movie, lead actor and supporting actor, sweeping it on the Golden Globes and the Oscars. I mean, somebody's going to have to look this up, but I don't think that's been done in the same movie in well over a decade, maybe 20 years.
Long time. Yep.
That lead actor and supporting actor win both and both Oscar and Golden Globe and just sweep it. I mean, I just don't see that happening. But, and that film almost didn't get made. We lost all of our money 2 weeks before we were shooting.
Wow.
There's McConaughey. He's got a doctor on set because he's looking very, very sick. Jared had lost a whole bunch of weight, so he had a nutritionist on, to make sure that he was fine. And we lost all of our money the weekend they were supposed to shoot.
Right.
And Cassie and Elway single-handedly saved the film, and we walked away with 3 out of 6 Oscars. We were the dark horse against 12 Years a Slave, which won Best Picture. But but the weird thing was that I did such a good job of people thinking that was me that I got halfway down the carpet and nobody wanted to talk to me. There was all this gay press in there that really wanted to cover the film and the importance of AIDS and the story and the pioneer spirit of the Dallas Buyers Club but the minute they saw me, it was like I was their mother or father that abandoned them and because of their homosexuality. And then Jennifer Gardner came up to me and just gave me a huge big hug, said it's her favorite scene. And once Jennifer Gardner said I was okay, then the rest of the carpet opened up. I was almost done with the carpet in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But had Jennifer Gardner not come up and who are you? You're amazing. That scene is the best scene in the movie. It's so heartbreaking, and you and Jared are incredible. And oh my God, it's just so painful to watch. You're incredible. And then all of a sudden, everybody wants to talk to me, And then once they started realizing, oh my God, I was, I was very involved with AIDS Project Los Angeles, and I was, I go to Elton John every year and help them raise money for AIDS. And so it's you're playing a particular role that people respond to in a very, very negative, visceral, negative way.
But that's a testament to your ability. I feel like it's such a solid performance. That's in the weirdest of ways, James. That's a compliment.
Oh yeah, no, and I take it as such.
Yeah,
I take it as such. It's just a little off-putting at first because.
Oh yeah, I mean,
as Brian and I were talking about, we're so different than the kind of people that we inhabit for a period of time, and so it's just funny that people kind of respond that way. My son, for example, is on the Righteous Gemstones as well with me. He plays Pontius Gemstone. He plays Danny McBride's angry middle son and John Goodman's grandson. And we're just about to start. We're just about to start second season, and they shelved us for a couple of months, probably 3 months. But they just changed his hair color from his chocolate brown hair with brown eyes to stark Billy Idol white blonde, and people respond to him like he's a punk, he's some skater drag, and I was like, "This is the same kid." But even a little thing of changing your hair, people's perception changes so drastically, and I just find that to be fascinating. I don't know why I got on that groove, but.
And James? Who did you say plays the middle son again? I cut you off.
My son is Kelton DuMont, who plays Pontius Gemstone in The Righteous Gemstones. He's the angry middle son of Danny McBride in the series.
Wait,
he did 8 out of 9 last season, and we're both going to do 6 out of 9 this season.
So that's your son in the real world.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
my
16
God, I
year old,
didn't know.
that's my boy.
I'm embarrassed, that I didn't know that.
No, it's good. It's a good thing. He's doing a good job.
Oh, he's doing a
his own
phenomenal
thing.
job. Holy cow, I didn't know that. That must be an amazing experience having your.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the joy for us is I got cast first, and then I helped him put his audition online, and we came up with some really funny stuff for Danny. And then Danny wanted to meet both of them. I got cast, but he wanted to meet Kelton just to see how he was with improv and getting along. And so they flew us up to Charleston, and we went up there and had a meeting with him, and it went swimmingly well. And then a little bit into it, when we shot the pilot, Danny was like, "Man, I'm so lucky." And I was like, "What are you?" He goes, "I got 2 DuMonts on my show, man. This is awesome." And I was just like, "Dude, you have no idea how much that meant to me when you just said." And he goes, "No, it's true, man. You guys are awesome." He goes, "I'm so fucking lucky."
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, we're lucky. We get to have this experience together. It's just rare."
That's really
my daughter's a theater major up at Ithaca, and when she gets out and doing theater, I was like, I want to get her into doing stuff where we all do stuff together.
That's really rare to be, but that's a phenomenal memory and experience. I'm coming back. Yeah, I want to come back to that, James, but I wanted to say something you touched on earlier. I know we know the virus and how awful it is, but if I try to find, I'm at the point in my life where I try to find the good in just awfulness. And one of the things that I see, I think, people are at home, but they're at home watching you in The Banker. They're at home watching you in Spenser Confidential. So it's kind of a mixed bag, and I get why people are like binging like crazy, but it's kind of like the ray of sunshine in this awful mess that is this virus, right? So it's the one blessing in this mess. Does that make any sense?
Makes total sense to me. I posted something up on Facebook that I'd say 98% of the people really positively responded to it, and I just said, look, I'm a Buddhist of 32 years, so I've found a way to be resilient and keep a high condition of life and not be swayed by successes or failures, and always trying to turn poison into medicine, turn lemons into lemonade, and that's been part of how I've been able to survive in the business. On top of retooling and just getting better and trying to constantly improve my skill set. I'm just getting a little bit better at no matter what I do. And so, but you're right. It comes down to, we're at, in all honesty, the real blessing in this all is that the planet gets a little bit of a break.
Yes. Good. Well said.
Let's be really here. This is a terrible disease.
Yep.
I get a little bit political, but when you dismantle a department in our country that's designated to keep us safe, in July, and then this happens, and then you hear about it in January, and you don't act. This is what happens.
Right.
This is what happens when you don't lead and you don't act. And this is what happens. And I'm not saying anything. I'm just going to say leave it just at that. But one of the things that is coming out of this is the skies are clear in China. They had to shut down the plants for 3-4 months. The air, they don't have to wear masks in China, right, in the last 3 months. In Venice, the water is clear. You can see the fish in the water. Planes have been not up in the sky. Cars are not going at anywhere near the speed. So if you really want to look, and I wrote this, I piggybacked off what somebody wrote very profoundly, but this could be the very thing that saves us, that saves our planet. I know it sounds totally crazy, and I don't mind being the crazy naysayer there. I don't mind being that guy that just goes, it's like I don't. I kind of came up to this. This guy passed on this thing to me, and I'm just going to read just a quick part of it because I just thought it was really. It's kind of where we're at right now, And this one particular line says, what if this virus is an ally to our evolution? The very thing that saves us and our planet from extinction. Overcoming this virus is a path to our ultimate survival as human beings on this planet. I mean, what if?
Right.
I'm a what if guy. I've always been a what if guy.
Right.
There's pessimists, and there's those who are optimists, and then there's people like me who are crazy. And when I say I'm crazy, I mean the glass is not half full, it's not half empty, it's overflowing.
Right.
That's my perception.
Right.
That's my perception. So therefore, my perception is my reality. You know what I'm saying? And I try to ground myself in honest and reality too, in terms of the work that I do. Just specifically when I'm going after characters, I'm looking for their Achilles heel.
Right.
I'm looking for something that Larry Moss had taught me. I'm looking for the character's fundamental weakness, because 9 times out of 10, anything that person says or does in the course of the play, television, or film, everything that they say or do is to cover that fundamental weakness. And I worked through Donald Trump for 2 years, and I can tell you this. What if his father just loved him unconditionally? He'd be an entirely different person.
Right.
If his father just clearly just loved him without any strings attached.
Right.
He'd be an entirely different person. So I bring these things up is because that's what, and you're right, for us to stop and spend more time with our children, the children that we brought into this earth, onto this planet, to use all the resources that are here. Get it?
Right.
All the water that
I got you.
They're going to have to, you know what I mean?
I got you.
No, people are freaking out a bit. Oh my God, I got to deal with these kids. It's like, yeah, you helped to create them. I mean, yeah, you got to deal with these kids. Lucky for me, my kid's school is online, and so he's in school from 8 to 3, just like it's a normal day.
Right.
But it's all on his computer, So,
right.
But the reality is that we have to stop for a second. We have to. It's almost like a planet reset if you think about it.
Yeah.
But there are less planes in the sky for pollution. There's a less pollution in the air because of cars. Factories, companies have to shut down and close down. So the planet gets a break. Mother Nature gets a little bit of a reprieve.
Right.
In terms of like floods and fires and earthquakes and, and tsunamis and, it's like, enough.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah,
so,
I get it.
I do believe we're at a point where it's just like, what's really important.
Right. No.
How much money, how much materialistic things do we need? How much money, how much food do we need? How much money do we need to live? Man, I tell you, we're all thinking about all these things. So, if one goes back and does things exactly the way they were doing it before this pandemic, I think, like New Orleans talks about pre-Katrina and post-Katrina. 2 totally different cities.
Right. Right.
They're just different cities in pluses and minuses, however you want to look at it. But I hope we look at this world, the way I looked at things and the way I did things pre-pandemic, it's going to be different than post-pandemic. I really hope so.
No, that's a healthy, that's a healthy mindset, James. And I got
what else? The other mindset just doesn't work for me.
Doesn't.
You know what I mean?
No,
I'm sure
doesn't
it
work.
works for people to worry and freak out and, but I have to be smart and I have to be diligent. I washed my hands. I went to the grocery store and came back and took a shower after the grocery store because that's what I was told. And I put my stuff right in the laundry because I was told those are smart things to do.
Right.
I may be overly optimistic, but I'm not an idiot.
No,
and I'm very appreciative. I can't believe, people are watching Spenser Confidential 2 and 3 times. They're loving it. It's a fun movie.
It's a very fun movie. Yeah, we're going to get to that.
But then on the other hand, on the other side of it, it's The Banker is just deeply thought out. Amazing story, and I talk about it. The what ifs of we did the premiere of The Banker at the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, Tennessee, and it's where the Lorraine Hotel was, where Martin Luther King was shot.
Right.
And I remember as a kid the photographs of pointing up to that balcony, and then when you walk into the room at the Martin Luther King Museum, it is a civil rights museum. It is haunting.
Mm.
It's haunting. It's like going up to being on the 6th floor of the book depository. It's a haunting moment.
Right.
And what's amazing about this story is I think about the what ifs. I'm still in the what if thing. I'm going to stay on what ifs.
That's all right. Important. Yep.
What if Martin Luther King lived?
Right.
What if his idea of passive, resistance, of nonviolence through peace, of economic prosperity for all, what if that ideal was put into place? What if these two bankers, African Americans who own these banks in Texas, what if they were able to get all those loans to other African Americans for their homes, their businesses in small town Texas? It would be an entirely different country.
Yep.
So I think everybody needs to please watch the film because I think it's extremely powerful and impactful. And I think it's important sometimes for us to be looking back at, and I think people will be surprised to know, oh my God, African Americans didn't own banks? It's like, no, they did not.
Right.
They weren't. The areas that were black were redlined. That meant that they have to put down more money as a deposit. That meant the interest rates were higher than anyone else. People wouldn't give loans to people in those particular areas.
Yeah. Yep.
So, you want to talk about if we really want, there's a beautiful line in the last part of the movie at The Banker, which I won't spoil for everybody. But I mean, what is the American dream and who's it for?
Right.
George Carlin has this great set that I want everybody to watch on YouTube called The Big Club. I watched him record it live at the Paramount Theater in New York. And it's called The Big Club, and you can see it on YouTube. And it's as if he wrote it yesterday, as if he's talking about the world yesterday. And it's a great big club, and you're not in it. And those who are really going to prosper and benefit from this entire thing are in the big club.
Right.
Business as usual. We have a huge opportunity ahead of us right here. What is important to us and what's our country important? And where I fit into this thing, I am not a political person, even though you can see I'm mostly political what I'm talking about. I do it through my art.
Right.
I do it through character.
Sure.
I do it through creative stories. I do it through stepping into the lives of other human beings. J. Parnell Thomas, who destroyed and ruined people's lives by, calling them communists,
Right.
And then he himself ends up in prison for cheating on his taxes with his family. You know what I mean? So the hypocrisy of it all.
Yeah. Right. And
I still subscribe to Shakespeare's ideal of being an actor is to hold his tour a mirror to nature. I'm gonna inhabit people and human beings and say words and things that are not necessarily mine in order to show this world what kind of people are in here, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah, and I want to touch on a few of your works, and that's what I definitely have The Banker in there. But I kind of want to set a stage here for people listening that don't know about your early life, because I feel like it's a really important part of you. You're raised in two cities, but the kid who was dancing in the middle of the street in Blues Brothers and the former DJ, he's done pretty good for himself, I think, James.
My father would be very proud.
Yeah, I think he's done pretty good for himself. And we talked off air about you went to Boston University, I went to Northeastern. We're pretty much brothers at this point.
Absolutely.
We can go to family.
We share the tea together.
we can go to family reunions. But one of the things I have to ask you was, do you find looking back that being raised between Chicago and New York, did that help you in becoming the person you are? Do you feel like it was beneficial? Because I know it was a bit of a personal, it was difficult. No one ever wants to go through that. But did you find that it was, did it define you as who you are today?
I think so, because I think there's, and I'll include Boston in that. Is like once you kind of go to Boston in college, these are three major metropolitan cities in America. And the thing with Chicago is, it's wonderful, good, salt of the earth people there. They talk to you. And then there's New York, where it's just kind of it can be a little bit of a dog eat dog, but real New Yorkers are pretty amazing as well. There's something about New York in terms of resiliency. The other thing about Chicago is and same thing with Chicago as well in terms of just, this they call the city of big shoulders. It's like you can kind of handle a lot of things. And then when I went to Boston, one of the things I loved about Boston was in Bostonian, I still go back and I go up there to teach actors who I just adore because they're just, you're in the shadow of New York, but yet you're your own person. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Boston is its own thing, but it's like New York has been the thing for so long. They're like, no. You need to pay attention.
Right.
Pay attention to our Red Sox. Pay attention to our New England Patriots. Pay attention to our Celtics. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
We're not New York or LA. You know what I mean? If you really look at the city of Boston, it's very small.
Right.
But there is this kind of like a chip on their shoulder or something to prove. And I do find that to be a very positive thing. Chicago has a little bit of that too. It's like a sister city. It's not really New York or LA. There's a whole kind of mentality in terms of Chicago itself. It's like we don't need either of those places to exist. Although, they used to say the mark of a great Chicago actor is he leaves. If you're really a successful Chicago actor, you go to New York or LA.
Right.
You don't stick around.
Right.
But then there are groups of actors that I know that did very, very well and have an incredible life and do theater. One of my dear friends, Adam Bitterman, that I went to high school with, he's able to do TV shows, and he's able to do all these kind of plays that he never would have got to do in New York or LA. So he's having this rich artistic life that I think is, we all have different definitions of careers.
James, doesn't Chicago have a lot of those very famous improv schools? And,
Second City, like Saturday Night Live is all from the early Saturday Night Live is all Second City,
right,
which is mostly Chicago actors, and then it really incorporated a little bit of the Groundlings more recently. So, but you'll find some of the earlier, the best writing, in my opinion, came from the Chicago writers. Groundling is a little more character-based stuff.
Right.
So the writing has never quite been, up to what I've felt was the best in terms of, the earlier days of Saturday Night Live. These were really, really very smart writers who created, great content. I think it's more character-driven and more political-based and more topical these days. But yeah, I think, growing up in both of those cities, and again, I'm a child of divorce, exactly as you kind of pointed out, so it being straddling between New York and Chicago was not an easy thing growing up. But I think, there was something to be said for, getting the best of both of those cities and then kind of finding your own place,
Right. No, that's well said. And one of the things I have to say from the outside, I never know what it's like to be in your shoes because, I think there's people that are millions of actors starting out that would love to have half the success you've had. But when I look at like you and how you've kind of come into this industry, did you ever feel overwhelmed or did you ever feel like, so when I look at actors, I almost think of it like if you're playing second base for the Yankees and you look over at maybe 10 years ago, you look over at short and you see Jeter. Is it like that on an acting set when you look over and you see Jared Leto? You look over, you see Bryan Cranston. Or are you so accomplished in kind of, because I know you've done some teaching, some coaching, you're really sure of yourself. Or are you ever overwhelmed in that regard? Do you feel like you've had that confidence in every scenario you're in? If that makes any sense, it's kind of a scrambled question.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Exactly what we talked about. I think more recently I've been talking about, because I've been doing lots of interviews because of Spenser Confidential and The Banker. And one of the things I've been trying to reiterate to people is the people that are at the top of our business, the Tom Cruises and the Tom Hanks and the Spielbergs and the Leos and the Clooneys and the Pitts and the Meryl Streeps and the Melissa Leos and the Bryan Cranstons, and I can go down the list.
Right.
These are exceptional people. I know our tendency is to want to get into their personal lives and gossip and the divorces and all this bullshit. But the reality is that my experience has been that these are exceptionally giving people, very generous. And I'm talking just really in terms of the work. I'm not talking about what they do outside of the business. My experience is working with them on set. And what I found is, and most fascinating and interesting to me, is when you're working with them, you're on equal footing.
Right.
When you're in a scene with them, you two are on to collectively part of this creative process, and you don't know what's going to happen between you and the lens. Period.
Right.
And that is the most exciting to me, and to be able to hold my own with what's considered some of the best in this business, without everyone ever going, God, that guy totally blew that scene. That sucked. Or, man, he just wiped the floor with that guy. It's like, no. To be able to hold your own with the best in our business. And you'll find, and this has been my experience, like, they're generous. Like, Cranston's like, yeah, dude, no, go on, go. Go, yeah, spend more time on, it's like, just go for it, And Spielberg and Soderbergh and, like, all these amazing directors, too, who are just, and Peter Berg, I've had this incredible experience with Peter Berg where it's like, we just have shorthand, man.
Right.
I don't think he finishes a full sentence when it gives me a direction. I get what he's saying within the first 2-3 words, so if he finishes a full sentence, great, but I've already figured out a way based on how, it's like he's a quarter man in boxing. He's like, yeah, dude, just lift the arm up, put the jab in there. I was like, oh, yeah, good, that's great. So that's all I needed, because I have a trainer, I have a coach, and I've spent, millions of dollars and many years training to be prepared for these things. And so there's times where I'm a little overwhelmed by how I'm overwhelmed a little bit sometimes by the business elements of things, where why someone thinks it's important to just pay me the same amount of money as if I just got a SAG card.
Right.
That I know that SAG scale, I understand that this is not the way that's what the job is, and it's budgeted that way. But if I'm this particular person, and I'm this is a crucial scene, I'm putting in this kind of work. I'm 150 credits in or 80 movies in, and you can't pay me the same amount of money as if I just got a SAG card or got upgraded from being a background. You can't pay me the same money. I just feel like that's what's overwhelming to me and disrespectful.
Right.
And the new model of the streaming is nowhere near the residuals that actors lived on, to be able to put their kids through school and dental work and pay for gas for all the auditions and self-tapes that they don't get. What people don't understand is, everybody thinks I'm working all the time, but the reality is that, I may have 150 auditions in a year. And if I have 5 gigs, that's a good year. That means I put in all that time and effort on 145 and came up short. In a good year, 10. That's a job a month,
Yeah.
And so this is not the life for everybody. And to put my entire household and the roof over my head and the clothes and like the food in the fridge at the mercy of someone else's decision making, whether I even get to audition, let alone get to have the job. That's not for everyone.
Right.
It's not for the faint of heart. And so I think I don't get overwhelmed by. I do have moments where I do get a little starstruck every once in a while. I did have a wonderful experience when I was at Vanity Fair this last year, which looks like it's going to be the last big Oscar Vanity Fair party. And, I was kind of overwhelmed by how many people I knew and how long I've been doing this and how many people were connected in one particular room.
Right.
And that's pretty much what that Vanity Fair party is about, is that these people are kind of like at the top of their game. And to congratulate Laura, Dern, who came up and said hi and asked me about my daughter on the night that she wins an Oscar. I mean, like, there's a mark and an exceptional person. She met my daughter maybe twice.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
But on the night she's winning the Oscar, she's asking me how my daughter is and asking her by name.
Wow.
That's an exceptional person.
I agree.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And Peter Berg is there and introducing me to other important people, saying this guy's going to be in every movie I do. You want to look at a real actor here? This is a real actor right here, James DuMont.
Right.
And I'm like, those are moments where I get a little bit overwhelmed. But I've also realized too that there's high highs and low lows in here. So I don't live like fire, where you throw a little gas on me and my ego gets burns up and it's great, and then I go back down and be depressed. I have a life like water that's constantly moving and flowing. And yes, there's times there's tidal waves and things, but usually below the water surface, it's calm. I got to stay calm. Even
Right.
even with this, I'm seeing a momentum shift for sure. I'm seeing a little bit of heat. These auditions at a time where everything's dead. I'm kind of like, it must be attributed to. I have an amazing team of representatives for the first time. I've had really great reps over the years, but this team I have now is pretty lean and pretty aggressive. And but there's a definitely momentum shift happening. People paying a little bit more attention, and I think that's fantastic because I'm just a guy just trying to work. You know, that's really all I want to do is leave a really great legacy here, and some people say some nice things about me that maybe my kids didn't hear about at a memorial. You know, and that's probably as good as it's going to get. You know, as I leave behind some really cool, interesting characters that make people feel and think and entertain and laugh and and just enjoy our lives. That's kind of what you're saying, because we're sitting at home and we're having to we do want a little distraction.
Right, and I have to
say,
say,
what's going on? We need entertainment right now more than any time. The unfortunate thing for me in New Orleans, as I feel bad, is that the biggest commodity this city has to offer is jazz, and you can't gather people to listen to jazz right now. It's the very thing that was born in the city, and the musicians live tip to tip, CD to CD, download to download, bar to bar, and that's it, man. The music's silent, man. It's like the women singing in Italy to each other. It's like, it's like, I just wish somebody would open up a window and just play some fucking jazz. Just play, just get your trumpet out and just play for us.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And
but we can't gather around. You know what I mean? Like, so we're at a very, very interesting time in our lives, and but I do double down, and I'm mostly filled with a lot of sense of gratitude and appreciation, and I'm excited. I want to see what happens on the other side of this. I want to see what's going to happen on the other side of this.
Yeah, and I have to say, you mentioned a lot of good points, but many times during interviews and over the course of time, I befriend many of the actors I have on this show, and they're really great actors. They're good human beings. And I think they would give their left arm to have half the career you have. So I think if I'm an actor starting out, and I'm not saying this to kind of, be patronizing, but I really do feel this way. If I'm starting acting, I'm not looking at Brad Pitt. I'm not looking at Meryl Streep or Leo. I'm looking at what did James DuMont do, because this guy is always working. Whether what you get paid is fair, I think that's probably not. I think you're not. You should be appreciated a bit more, I'm sure, in that department. But if I'm an actor starting out, I'm looking at you and your career and your body of work, and I'm like, how do I get halfway there? Because I talk to many great actors, and they are dying for 3% of the success that you've had over the years. They would love that, but you've earned all that. I feel like, I hear what you're saying about Peter Berg and Laura Dern. But you've put yourself in that position, I feel like, James. Like, you have worked your ass off. This isn't something like you played 6 lucky numbers at the local package store and you hit the lottery. You busted your ass to get where you are today. Oh, yeah.
But and thank you for acknowledging that. I appreciate that. And because I think there is a, I think Entourage did not do our business a very good, between Entourage and American Idol. I think it gives a big falsehood to our business.
Right.
That just being in LA is going to happen. Just you being the grocery store clerk, and then all of a sudden you sing on American Idol and you got a fucking career. I think there's a whole bunch of steps that nobody's. You know what I mean? You're seeing just a few of the little consultations on American Idol with these particular You're not seeing the hours of rehearsal. You're not seeing the hours of lessons, of blowing your voice out. And you're not seeing the things that I've gone through, which is, I did theater in New York. I did 200 plays in New York. I lived in New York for 7 years.
Wow.
And I did 200 plays in 7 years. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And I even did plays in Los Angeles, which is like, doing Shakespeare in Vegas. No one gives a shit. No one cares.
Right.
It's like, but I did it because I love it, and it's just important and part of my evolution. So I think the biggest thing, and I say this all the time to younger actors, is do everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we're in a time where it's like create stuff together. Don't wait. Don't like be like me, or I have to wait for a phone call or an email to come in to validate if I should be worthy of being able to be part of an artistic endeavor with a group of people. You know, we're in a time where the cost of being able to create content, whether it's through your phone, whether it's on your, your laptop, the ability to be able to kind of create your own destiny, but be good. The thing, just because somebody's got a camera, just because they think they're a filmmaker, and so I think the thing is that we're at a time where so the thing I usually say to younger actors is this: don't go to New York or LA. Be a master of whatever market you're in.
Right.
Ohio, Florida, Georgia, Texas. Be the best actor in that market. Be the master of that market. Every commercial, every theater, every student film, every voiceover, every little thing you can do in that market to have experience, and then study.
Right.
Because the biggest thing I've realized is the people that are out of this business were far more talented than me, and I saw it when they were coming out. Like went to Yale, and they just super, super talented, but they just felt entitled because of where they went to school, or they felt that they look a certain way, or their look was good for a while, but they made money off of soap operas, or they made money doing voiceovers or ADR work, or but they never. When they were at their success, they never reinvested back in getting better. So, for me, right out of the gate, auditioning is a whole different animal to being an actor. Luckily for me, I found Tim Phillips about 15 years ago at timphillipsstudio.com. He has this book called Audition for Your Career, Not the Job. Best book for the 21st century actor. Michael Shirtless' book is dated, doesn't apply to the work that's happening right now in film and television. But Tim's book is like revolutionary in terms of learning how to Sherlock Holmes and dissect material.
Yeah.
That's the first one. So for me, I knew I was a good actor, but I was not very good at auditioning. Once I've learned so many things from Tim, I was able to apply a lot of stuff. So any actor out there who listens to this, get Tim Phillips' book, do it immediately. Best thing you ever did. He's now based in Atlanta, so if you're in the Atlanta area and he also is in New York, go work on his workshops immediately. Second person is Larry Moss, thanked on the Oscars by Hilary Swank, Michael Clark Duncan, Helen Hunt for her Oscar, Leo DiCaprio's coach. And Larry Moss is an amazing teacher, and he teaches in New York and LA. And you can just sit and listen and observe. I get more out of listening to him teach other people than really participating in. And so, there are these two masters that I've been fortunate enough to have while they're still alive. Wynn Hanman also teaches in New York. He's 90 years old and still does teach, 4 or 5 classes a week.
Wow.
So, we have these amazing, living, iconic teachers that are here while they're here. Get in front of them, read their books, know the work that they do. So for me, even at every step of the way when things were going well, I reinvested back into my skill set.
Yeah.
And now in terms of doing online, I'm doing my first tonight. I'm doing my first online Zoom. I do an on-camera workout I've been doing in LA and Boston and New York and everywhere I've worked, Charleston. I'm now moving it onto Zoom because I can't be in front of people. So it's going to be a new thing for me to be able to do that tonight. So when I hang up with you in an hour from now, hour after that, I'll be doing my first Zoom class, What's fun about it is that I'm starting to learn so much more from my students I know what I do in order to prepare for auditions, and I prepare the auditions much like I'm doing the job. But I now learn how to be able to articulate the very tools and techniques that have helped me to get this far.
Right.
And that's a really amazing thing. And one of the things that people point out is it's unheard of and rare that a guy like myself that works so much stops everything and takes time out to give back and to teach. Now, I'm paid money to fly up there and to teach and, go to stay in a hotel and eat. But the reality is this is really a kind of a give back because there, so many people in the course of my life. I work with a theater company in New York called Ensemble Studio Theater, and I learned so many things watching these playwrights like David Mamet and Shel Silverstein and Wendy Wasserstein and Richard Greenberg and Craig Lucas, like these pioneer writers. But as an actor, our job was to serve the material. And so that still kind of happens to me, is when the audition comes in, I can't wait. I go under this thing that Tim has taught me, is audition for your career, not the job.
Yeah. Well,
and the only reason to be an actor is, who do I get a chance to be? It goes back to the very thing that got me in this in the beginning. It's just, okay, I'm going to be the soldier, and the dragon's going to, you're going to be up, you're the princess, and you're going to be up in the castle. And then I'm going to come in, and I'm going to save you, okay? So it's like, it's role play. But that, in order for me to have survived this 30 years, I've had to just remind myself, the only reason to go to the audition is, who do I get a chance to be?
Yeah. No,
not how famous I'm going to be, not how much money, not what the job is going to do for me, how it's going to help my agents, not anything. Yeah, I get to be this person for the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours in the movie. That's the only reason to be an actor, is I get to do this thing. And so for young actors, I always go, and the truth is, this is a much more difficult business than it was when I started, in my opinion, because there were so many incredible opportunities. But now I'm looking at all this incredible content being created, going, wait, there's actually more opportunities, for things that are good, that are worthy. But if you're an actor and if you're not waking up every morning that you have to do this, there's not another thing that you are capable and you have to do, then do it.
Right.
But if you're not waking up with that kind of passion or desire and dream, and that you look back at everything and you're like, I could do this other thing, and I could then do that. But if you don't really have the kind of passion for it that makes you get up and we call it, you get touched, you get the bug. You know what I mean? It's like a curse. It's like, you can't. At a certain point in my career, my wife turned to each other when I was struggling really badly before I opened up Louisiana as the South as a market. And I just was like, I guess I could sell real estate, I guess. I'm looking into getting my real estate license, and I'm just like, no, man, I'm not done here. I can't. I turned to my wife, and she's like, you're overinvested. I'm like, what? She's like, you're overinvested. We have to go all in. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, look, otherwise the house wins. She's like, we've made sacrifices. We've invested all this money and this time. You have to go all in.
Right.
And I'm a poker player. So it's like, at a certain point I had to go all in. And that meant doubling down on getting better. That meant getting on planes and paying my own airfare. That meant paying for working locally, paying for my own hotel and cars and food, and that meant sometimes that, I was upside down, that I was, spending more money to break even. There's a break-even job, or this job I would lose money, and I did that in order to work more consistently. And I discounted my value and my quotes and my worth in order to kind of do that. And that's not for everybody, but the reality was, she's right.
Right.
I'm over invested, so I have to just press on. But if you're not at a point where in your career that you don't wake up every morning having to do this, and there are other things you can do that will give you just as much happiness and satisfaction and gratification, and then do that. But I was at a point, it was going to kill me. My soul, I literally was going to die if I had to do this other thing. And I've tried to do other things, and my sisters have been very successful in business. I could have joined their company and been retired by them, worked with them. But that was never my passion, And I think the thing is, whatever people decide to do, if you really have a passion for it, it doesn't feel like work. It is work. Trumbo was I think I did a 20-hour day on Trumbo. And the first 12 hours I was off camera for everybody else's shot. But then between 12 and 16 and 18 hours, I'm on camera. So all of a sudden my performance has to be amazing between hour 12 and hour 18. You know?
Right.
So, it's not for everybody. It's not for the faint of heart. But again, if you have such a desire and a passion to do this and you can't do anything else, then get all in. And the way to get all in is you just got to get better. For me, I'm always trying to get just a little bit better. So even when I'm working with actors and coaching them and helping them with self-tapes or doing my on-camera workouts, I'm in being able to articulate and pinpoint more quick and immediate ways for them to get results. I have to think of different ways in which that I approach my own work, and so that's been the greatest reward of like any person who teaches understand. No, especially if they have a passion for that particular thing.
Yeah, that is so well said. And, I wanted just for those listening who, that is unbelievable advice for actors. And one of the things that I think people need to paint a picture of is just a few of the things in your huge body of work. One of which, James, is American Horror Story. I have to say, you've been in a few seasons. What I love about this, outside of the fantastic show that it is how it approaches acting, right? So I've had some older actors on where, I think in England, a few of them said they went on these, like, I don't know how to explain it effectively. You would know this, but like they had like these road shows where they did plays. I almost feel like American Horror Story is a look back in time in a sense that they use the same cast, for those of you listening, for, different roles, different scenarios. And I think that's just such a unique way outside of the show itself, James. What a wonderful way to approach and look at acting. And I mean, the nucleus of the show is the same. They change some parts here and there. But as an actor, can you appreciate that format?
Oh, my God, I love it. And I love being able to do 2 seasons. I wish I could do more.
Right.
And they called certain times for other times for different seasons, but I was busy on other projects, so I was not able to kind of continue on with the Ryan. What I like to call the Ryan Murphy Repertory Company. And that's exactly what we talked about earlier in our conversation, which was like, the old days of Rep Theater this was the theater company for the season, and they were going to do all these plays, and all of us were going to be doing different roles, but we were all part of the same, we were all part of the same season. And I love that. I love, Kathy Bates is now a friend, and, Jessica and Sarah Paulson and I are buddies. And so, it's to create that kind of repertory company and a family and, with different themes and different ideas, but a consistency of seeing what different people can do. I think it's kind of a perfect, it's a perfect storm in the best way possible,
Yeah, and I think one of the things that, you look at that and you mentioned the relationships you've made, and, one of the things is that the guest I had before you had a wonderful rapport. I can't remember who he was talking about, but I think it was with Joel Egerton. You seem to have that same rapport with Mark Wahlberg. How did that start, James? And, you guys were, for those listening, Patriots Day, the awesome, you can find it on Netflix now, Spenser Confidential, Deepwater Horizon. How do you guys get this great rapport going? How did that develop?
Yeah. It built, slowly at first, because there were, like Mark was, I didn't know him, and then, we had 12 weeks to work on Deepwater Horizon, so we had a lot of time together, and he knew Pete was really kind of into what was going on, and Mark periodically would watch the playback in the monitors and stuff like that, and in the beginning it was a little standoffish, and then I started talking about, what's the school in Boston. He goes, oh, yeah, BU, and then, I got to meet one of his other brothers, James Wahlberg, who actually look a little bit like he's a little skinnier version of me, but he's like bald and I am. And said, man, you might be my brother Jimmy. I was like, yeah. It's like, yeah, I met James, we get along, and blah, blah, blah. So then we got a little bit closer, and then the kind of, in the middle of Deepwater, he used to have this cool thing where he'd have he's a big wine dude, and so maybe not now, but there was a time where he's really into wine, and he'd have they literally had like this bottle that was in a case, it's like with a key and a lock, and just like, and at the end of the day, he was, just have this expensive, rare bottle of red wine that he would have at the end of the day. And at a certain point in the thing, he's, James, come on over. And I was like, holy shit, I'm having a little wine with Mark. I was like, this is going good. This is going really good. Then at a certain point, when I moved on, I heard they were working on Patriots Day. My reps reached out. Pete really wanted to have me do something in the movie. So I ended up, when I got to the set of Patriots Day, Mark came over to me, and we had this kind of like brotherly kind of fucking with each other kind of thing,
right.
like I'm gonna slap you or something like that, and he comes over to like, hey man, step back, because he's playing a cop. I was like, hey, put the gun down. You can come talk to me, but put the gun over there before you come over. Oh, we're just kind of fucking with each other. He goes, no, Dan, come here, I want to talk to you. And I was like, all right, come here. As if he's gonna like do something to me when he comes over. And he goes, look, dude, we just did test screenings in Chicago, Deepwater Horizon, and I just want to tell you, your work is fantastic in the movie, man.
Wow.
Because Pete and I were talking about it, and I just, I'm so glad you're here. We really love having you here. Thank you for doing this part. But Pete and I were just talking about this, how much your work is so good in Deepwater. And, we love you, man. And, and I was like, get out of here. He's like, no, being real serious and sincere. You did really good work, and I just wanted you to know. And that's why you're here, man. That's why you're working with us. And I was just like, wow. That just kind of stopped me for a moment. And then when we got to Spenser Confidential, the first day of shooting was, I think it was the first day, or one of the first days. There's a scene in there the Mark comes after me with Spenser, and I'm not going to ruin it for everybody. So he comes after me, and I was just way too cocky. I was just like, Pete's like, come on in and dance around a little bit. And so I was like, okay, I'll come in and dance around. And then the song in my head is, it's just a good vibration, sweet suspicion. You just walk right and walk. So I did that, and Mark just kind of looked me up and down like, really? You're going to do this fucking Mark Wahlberg thing here? And so at first I thought he's going to hate me or it's going to be a great thing. And it turned out to be a great thing. But it was at first a little off-putting because I think he wants to be so far past being Mark. But the reality is that got him in that room, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then his talent figured out a way to keep him going. But and his skills and his producerial things, and I got nothing but like deep mad love and affection for Mark Wahlberg. But that was a little ballsy to be kind of going a little nostalgia on him, but he thought it was great and then fun, and so now we are in a third project together, and I'm hoping to do many more.
No, that's awesome, and I got to say, Peter Berg, legendary director, Hancock, The Kingdom, and it's going to take us into your next Spenser Confidential. So much fun, and you can confirm this, James. Cardi B can back me on this. She loved it, right?
I know. Cardi B loved it. I was like, man, I'll get back on Twitter. Cardi B saying she loves Spenser Confidential. I actually, just when you called in, I got a text message from George Nolfi, the director of the Banker, saying, we've been trying to get people to give us really good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb because we went through anybody can look up the whole story. There's a little bit, we had a really tough start of our film, accusations on both sides. The daughter of the main character kind of, stopped Apple from releasing the film, and still reports that should have, some impact on telling this amazing story. So we've been struggling really to kind of get the movie out, and then we had to pull it from the theater early, so I don't know if we'll be able to be Oscar nominated, but I think we could. But George just said that all of a sudden people are really giving great reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. And so if anybody has seen The Banker or is going to, please put that out there, because get up on IMDb, get up on Rotten Tomatoes, because the reality is that stories like that, if you were a studio executive and I turned to you and said, hey, I got this great story about about some bankers, and they're black. All the main characters are black.
Right.
What studio? It's about the banking industry and the racist practice of the banking industry. Interested? You know what I mean? Everyone's like, no. Why would I have? No. No.
Right.
No.
Right.
So if you want true stories about what I believe are unsung heroes or pioneers or revolutionaries in terms of philosophical ideas, that every human being, no matter the color of their skin, is given an opportunity to have the same economic prosperity, there's an interesting notion that all men are created equal. And so to have stories like this, to be able to be told, it's amazing. This Brad Fierstein, wrote the check, and took a risk, and Apple stepped up to the plate and acquired the movie and got behind us. And, I think if all goes well, and I'll knock on wood when I say this, is, we're going to get an Oscar, we're going to go for the Oscars. But it comes down to people watching
Right.
and responding, saying these are, the Academy talks about wanting to have, more inclusive and more diversity. Well, here's 3 lead actors, Neil Long and Sam Jackson and Anthony Mackie, all African American.
Right.
Here's an African American story.
Right.
So you can talk all you want, but let's walk the walk here.
Right.
So it's great. So it's great. In the middle of all this, George is like, dude, are you telling friends and family to because our tomatoes on IMDb are looking really good? I was like, every single person that was on Instagram that says anything about The Banker, both myself and 2 other cast members thanked them.
Right.
To say thank you. And we asked them to go give that review because I'm working on a huge story that's never been told before that I can't believe. And it's like, that's a story that has to be told.
You yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, I've been spending 2 years on it, and when it's ready, I know exactly who to approach. But it's like, it takes a time, like my friend worked on the movie telling the story of his dad. It's a little movie called Green Book. I don't know, have you heard of it?
I was just, I had
10 years ago, 10 years ago, I read that script going, dude, this is like, they're going to say it's like Lethal Weapon in the South. Come on.
Right.
2 of these guys together.
James.
And they're like, I was like, tough sell. But look, he did it. He did it. 20 years, actually.
James.
Buyers Club was a 20-year project.
Yeah. And James, I got to tell you, I had Nick Vallelonga on the show, I want to say a year ago. And
that's what I'm talking about is Nick.
Yeah. And I told him, I said, you're going to win an Academy Award. You're going to sweep. And he's like, I appreciate it. And bam, it came to fruition. But the same way you predicted Jared Leto's success. But I want to touch The Banker. I have one last question for you on Spenser Confidential, by the way. For those listening, a lot of fun. Netflix. I would be tempted as an actor to always steal things from the set, a prop, a script, whatever. How tempted are you to take that Corvette and just is that the...
Oh, dude.
Dude,
yeah.
Come on.
It's an $80,000 Corvette,
wow.
which I didn't know was possible. But that car's an $80,000 car. The tires alone, I think, are like $20,000 or $15,000 or some crazy shit. Because there are these certain particular race tires, and they're inflated a certain way, and there's all this aerodynamic shit to it. It's like, they're at least $10,000. I think they're like $5,000 a piece.
Wow.
So, so kind of crazy. And that car, I've driven my sister's Porsche. I've raced some cars, like at a bachelor party for a NASCAR thing. But dude, when I put that thing moved, I got a little intimidated how quick off the pedal that thing is, man. That thing off the light, man. That car moves. So yeah, that one was that was a fun ride.
Yeah.
And then to have Virginia Johnson, our costume designer, basically, I've said it before many times, is that when you get a good costume designer,
yep,
half your role is done.
Yeah, and James, Charlie,
the minute Virginia Johnson, I'm going to probably put him up on Facebook, Instagram now. I'll give you all. There was like 10 different. I had like 17, I think, total, but there was 10 that made the cut, and the one that didn't was this red one that I ended up. She said, "Look, you wear this at the premiere." I wore my red tracksuit. You can look them up online. I wore my red tracksuit at the premiere because Virginia asked me to. I had a Netflix shirt. I had red classic red Jordans that they gave me. And Scott Stuber, who's the number 2 guy over at Netflix, he looked at me and he was like, "James," he goes, "I love you, man." I go, "Thank you." I'm wearing, black shirt with red Netflix, a red tracksuit, in Tracksuit Charlie, he just he couldn't have been happier.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's how I want to appreciate Netflix for putting me in the movie. And Pete really, that came out of going to a party at Mile 22. I went to the Mile 22 premiere. I was up for a role, but it looked at some of the friend of John Malkovich did this other role in there that I was after, and Pete just kind of stared at me at the after party, like stared me down like some weird. And I was like, "What? What are you, Pete? Why are you looking at me?" He goes, "I got something for you in the next one." I'm like, "What?" It was called Wonderland at the time, and now it's called Spenser Confidential. And he goes, "I got a great role for you, bad guy." And I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah." So Pete knew.
Yeah.
From that point on, he knew this was going to be the deal. And, my sister came to the premiere, which is the first time she's come to a premiere, and she's just like, "I've seen every movie you've done." And she's like, "This one. People are going to remember this one."
Right.
And I said before this, I was saying, God, it's so frustrating to me getting on planes and going places and nobody recognizes me and makes me feel like no one's paying attention to what I'm doing. So it's like I kind of question things every once in a while. And I was like, I said this out loud. It's like, I just want to do a role that I don't have to fucking explain who I am in the movie. Well, here you go.
Yeah, there you go.
You can't miss me.
Yeah, and James, very classy of you to bring up the costume designer, because that's kind of what my podcast is about, bringing out these cinematographers and costumes. A very classy gesture on your part.
Tobias Schlesinger, cinematographer from Peter Berg, amazing.
Yeah, very classy. Yep, very classy move on your part.
There's shots in there that are poetic and gorgeous. They're like a Wyeth painting.
Right.
The way he kind of like figures out a frame. Tobias, I got nothing but love.
Yeah, and I have to say, you mentioned The Banker, on Apple TV right now, Apple Plus, I have to say, you said everything before, but when people ask me what it's like, I say it's a phenomenal movie. It's very Green Book-like in its time, its approach, it's the music.
Very Green Book-like.
And it's funny that you said it, because it was in my notes. I said, this is how I would describe it, and I loved it. I think Anthony Mackie is one of our hidden gems in the entertainment world. I think he's a guy that... Oh, he's just phenomenal.
And
great.
Nick Holt, so subtle, so good, incredible arc of story. Nia Long, amazing. And then Sam Jackson, that guy, every time he laughs, the most infectious, loving, enjoyable. It just brought joy to watch him work.
Oh, yeah.
And the lines that he has and the way he delivers them, he just flies in this movie. His work is total. He and Anthony are total Oscar worthy.
Absolutely,
100%.
absolutely. And I hope people don't, because
I'll say it right now. Oscar predictions for both of them. Period.
Let me tell you right now, that's gospel, because your predictions in the past have worked out pretty well. Dallas Buyers Club.
I told Brian he's going to get a nomination. He did. I told Melissa Leo she would. She did. She won. So far so good. I don't get all of them, but I'm pretty good.
Anthony and Sam need to send you a text saying thank you for that, because that's going to happen. I have a good feeling on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just wrapping this up here. Righteous Gemstones season 2. I got to tell you. So I've been watching this. I finished it up. This Netflix documentary, Tiger King.
Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah. So I got to say, when I was watching this, I'm like, this is Kenny Powers and the Righteous Gemstones all mixed together. This is what this is, but it's real life. But can I just tell you how much before I realized that Kelton DuMont was part of this, which is my error, and I apologize. Can I just tell you how much I love Chad in this show?
Oh, thank you, man.
And you know what? I got to say, the end scene where it's like, Kenny Powers kind of the Kenny Powers. You've kind of brought into this room to watch this scene. Right. It's kids are involved. It's come on, like what are the bros being bros? Like poor Chad's completely sold out.
Bros over hoes, man. That's one of Danny's favorite sayings, And our group is called the Goon Squad. So it's me, it's Danny, it's Jody, it's Troy, it's Jay LaRose, and we're the Goon Squad. Originally, and the writers will admit this. And look, dude, we didn't think we just wrote the Goon Squad as like a little like a kind of like sort of friends, buddy, ancillary thing. But like everything you guys are doing. Like, we're writing more stuff for you guys. Like, we love the Goon Squad. And we talk about the Goon. We got Danny's with the Goon Squad on that thing. Like, so it's like we went from kind of like being just an ancillary thing to being really important to like Danny. And Danny's like, dude, everything I see, and like, we have a hard time cutting stuff because you guys are like, nailing this shit. So we really worked our asses off to kind of solidify the value. This season, the focus is really going to, because I've read the first 6 episodes, this season is really going to be focused on family.
Right.
The real gemstone tree, the real genealogy of the gemstones, which to me tells you we're not doing 3 seasons. We're 5+.
Oh, I hope.
Because, and now I'm interested to see how, this has been such a huge change and shift for this country and the world. I'm very interested to see what changes the writers may make or try to incorporate this kind of pandemic thing in there, and a way to figure out how the gemstones can profit from it in all its hypocrisy, just much like the corporations that are going to benefit so much from this incredible, awful experience for everyone. There's going to be people that are going to really. I mean, if you're the guy that makes Purell hand sanitizer, you got to be feeling really good. If you're the guy that makes Lysol, you're feeling like, wow. If you're the dude that comes up with the virus, the antivirus to this thing, it's gonna go well for you. But yeah. So, and the gemstones, the show is just so incredibly well written.
Oh, it's awesome.
What's beautiful about gemstones is the master shot is done scripted, the medium shot is done scripted, and then when we get to the close-up, that's when we start to improv and kind of play around with the words. And you have people like Jody Hill, David Gordon Green, and even Danny directed our pilot. You have these, and your job is, it's almost like this childish game. It's like, David Gordon Green would feed me the most outrageous things to say, and I have to say them and keep a straight face while looking straight at the person I'm talking to, but behind him is the entire crew laughing their asses off. So it's this game of like, how much can we say or do to break each other and the same character? And I'm like, that's what I'm being paid for? This is fucking incredible. This is the best job ever. And my son's the same way too. Like, he got on set and they're like, you mind if we make your hair blonde and maybe we'll give you some earrings and stuff? And he's like, let me think about that. And then he goes, well, when am I going to get a chance to blonde my hair? And I'm like, exactly. So go for it. The school wasn't too thrilled, but they haven't seen it yet because, everybody's on pandemic, online school. So, but yeah, there is this kind of like, I do think that Danny's done the smartest thing he could possibly do with his brand and his quality of comedy is, with Kenny Powers and with Kenny Powers, it was about Kenny. You know what I mean? Everything revolved around Danny and everything around Kenny. Then when he got to vice principals, he kind of split the power between he and Walton Goggins. Who, by the way, let me give you another prediction. Walton Goggins, Baby Billy. Emmy winner, period, end of story, hands down. Nominations for John, for Edie, for Danny. Just telling you, this is where my head's going for this season.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, Edie's story about basically kidnapping her college professor and sexually assaulting him is maybe one of the greatest things I've ever seen on TV.
Just know that story was part of vice principals. They couldn't use it, so they brought it back for Gemstone.
Get out. Are you serious?
Yeah, she wrote that. She wrote that for a scene for vice principals. They couldn't get it in, or they shot it and they didn't make the cut. And so Edie and Danny talked, and they brought it back with the table with BJ. So hilarious. Yeah. So but then the smart thing Danny did with this show is he spread the wealth. He is the main character, but he's not the main character. John's got stuff, and Walton's got stuff, and Edie's got stuff, and the family's got stuff, and the Goon Squads have. So the idea is that he's spread this kind of comedy and this his brand and type of comedy to everybody. So it doesn't all just come on his shoulders.
Right.
So those who are fans of him, you still get the same swagger. I mean, I love every time he walks, he's wearing Elvis clothes almost all the time, and he's got the Conway Twitty, and mutton chops, but he has his palms closed like he's like an ape. He's like a caged ape. And there's just brilliant writing in there. Various charcuterie. I mean, like who's saying shit like that?
Right.
And then the improv things every once in a while, I get lucky, and that's not Daddy, that's CGI. I get lucky. I get lucky that one of my improv lines stays in and it's funny. And so, this is again, I'm looking at things perspective wise. This is an amazing time. It's not lost on me. I'm just humbly appreciative and really excited to see kind of where, what happens when we get on the other end of it.
Yeah, two quick questions, James, and interview. So thank you so much for all your time.
Oh,
I had Tony Cavallero on the show who plays Keith. Great guy.
Oh, yeah.
How do you?
Tony's awesome.
Yeah, you touched on this, but how do you maintain your? And I know you definitely said you touched on this point, but how do you maintain your composure? Not just you, but all the cast. How many times are you guys doing additional takes because people just can't?
Oh yeah.
That's but it's awesome in a sense.
The outtakes, you could do an entire, we have outtakes. We showed outtakes at the cast party, or the first season cast party of it, and the outtakes were just, you could do a whole, they're just outrageous. Beyond what even classic people would remember, like the Carol Burnett outtakes. Our outtakes are crazy. Stuff that never got used is crazy, crazy fun. And yeah, it just requires a massive amount of focus, relaxation, and concentration. And being able to be true to your character. There's things that I want to do and pose on, Chad 2.0 is what I like to call him. I've lost 10 pounds. I still have another 2 months or so to get where I want to get my body, for Chad for season 2.
Right.
So there's things that I want to bring to it, and then I'm looking at the writing, and it's consistent with all that, so it's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the hard part is, you got to work hard, and the game is who can make the other person break. So it's almost like a childhood, it's a dare. It's it's like what can I say or do to see if this other person cracks? Ridiculous. We're getting paid to do that. People love it, and it's funny. Yeah. That's the other thing. It's funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can
That's
tell.
The other thing for a show about the hypocrisy of televangelism. We've got no Christian groups are banning us, bombing us, telling us, boycotting. None of that.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's about family.
Right.
It's about faith. And so it's tied to money. So be it. This is the society that we live in. We're in a materialistic society. How do we know? Look around. We have all these things we don't need.
Right. You mentioned the Righteous Gemstones, and I got to say, whether it's the theater or, television, Netflix, whatever, HBO, it is the funniest thing I think I've seen in any forum, any capacity. I could not wait for, Sundays.
There's no show like it. I say anybody who has HBO should be watching every episode of Gemstones.
Anybody who has a TV should be watching the Righteous Gemstones.
There's no show anywhere even close to it. Period. End of story.
No.
Nothing like it.
No. So
totally
my last
yeah,
absolutely. My last question for you, James, is this. You mentioned the what if, and I love this, what you said before. It was about Martin Luther King and what if he had lived. I was curious if you saw a movie called Yesterday. It was about the Beatles. It brought up a similar what if in my head. It was about a what if about, spoiler alert, about John Lennon. And it was kind of like an interesting take you had earlier. I don't know if you saw the movie Yesterday, but it was very much what
I didn't, but I hear a lot of people talk about it, and it's definitely something I want to see.
Yeah.
I just had a whole bunch of what ifs. What if JFK lived? What if Martin Luther King lived? What if Malcolm X lived? What if those, and this is just the saddest thing, what if those people who were trying to change the status quo of society, and I have a whole speech about it in The Banker. You know, you guys are trying to change the status quo in Texas.
Right.
Yeah. Think about that for a second.
Right.
You know, in the Jim Crow South, like, the balls on you guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
The audacity. And then that brings me into the audacity of hope, which is that, how can one really, truly, in this world, try to figure out a way to stand up against all power structures, especially now that corporations have such an incredible hold on our country. I mean, incredible hold on our country.
Right.
And we're going to see even more of it, after all this. How much corporations own and dictate everything we do. And that was not the way this world was 50 years ago.
No.
30 years ago.
It is, and it's such an... being, the kind of society that we are, what's the alternative? I don't know what the alternative is, but I do know the what ifs are like, how hard must it be for somebody to really, truly stand up for something that's really important and be willing to risk their life for it. If you really look at the people who did it before you, it would give you a cautionary tale to not do it. Right.
And I think that's the intent of all terrorism,
right,
or the all oppression, is to scare those who are willing and to be courageous enough to not act, to not step up, to not risk their lives. Because look at the path, look at the body count. So I feel like I'm not willing to go and risk my life to do it. But I am willing to step into the shoes and the words of people that I totally disagree with, in order to let that voice be heard and decided and evaluated by someone else, whether that's true or not true.
Right.
For example, I'm waiting for Rush Limbaugh to kick off, to be honest with you, because once he kicks off, then I can do the liberal, the feminazis of the world. I can inhabit. I can have as much OxyContin as the pharmaceutical industry will allow me to have. And trust me, they will give it to me because I have great followers.
That is a very good Rush Limbaugh, James.
Waiting in the wings, if you will, for the right opportunity to inhabit someone that I totally despise. There you go. Thanks for calling. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yeah, James.
So my point is that who's the next guy I'm going to get there to have it? And again, this is I can only do it through my work and my art. This is my platform.
Yeah, and you've got me thinking now, somebody's going to listen to this interview and they're going to start a show very similar to Amazing Stories on Apple TV, Apple Plus, about what if, what if this person, very Quantum Leap-like, right? What happens if this person...
I think I love the what if, man.
I love that. I'm all in on that, and I got to say, you are a good dude, man, and you gave me almost 2 hours of your time, and I can't even tell you how much I appreciate it. You guys can catch Kelton and James DuMont on Season 2 of Righteous Gemstones, to be announced. You can catch James on Spenser Confidential, The Banker, both phenomenal movies, Netflix, Apple Plus TV, respectively. James, you're a good dude, man, and I was so privileged and lucky to talk to you today. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, man.